questions to Faisal, maybe, or August?
Yes, Pastor.
Okay, I don't believe you would come without a question. So I'm sure you will make a speedy progress.
Pastor, when you frequently mention about to attain non-differentiation through correct differentiation, uh, do you do you need us to take it as in a very particular context, especially about these two terms?
You know, to my understanding, whatever we do, most important is the motivation. Hmm? And the motivation has to do with uh, logic, with understanding. Hmm? Unless we have understanding, we won't get the uh, proper motivation to practice non-dual meditation, because this world is filled with all kinds of deception, especially nowadays in this so-called liberal capitalism prevailing in the West. It's all based on kind of deception, uh, under the cloak of truth, and everybody is encouraged to kind of just to make it and to make money, no matter what it costs. I was also victim of this kind of surrounding. It doesn't matter if you Buddhist or Muslim or Christian. The money has the power, and when you have some power over others, then you bound to misuse it, because uh, this tendency to gather and to make a profit is all prevailing. It prevails all the stratas of the society, from the poorest to the richest. All are motivated by greed. So uh, those who are serious about the Dharma, they are actually very few. And when they practice Dharma, they usually also have in the background this uh, gathering something, attaining something, getting some happiness, enjoying more. This is very common. Unfortunately, it is so. And so this logic of proper motivation should be is especially important for non-dualistic practice. Mm. That's why this study of Madhyamika, study of Yogacara is a necessity. No matter we study Zen, we study Tibetan Buddhism, we study Pure Land. Unless we have some understanding of what we're doing, we will not get the proper motivation. Hmm? I myself, I have lived in China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong for a long, long time. Many Buddhists in China also, they are Buddhists, but they don't have a proper motivation. It is difficult to get proper motivation. That's why I think the first book the Master Shen has written is Genshin, no? The true faith. Hmm? True faith is difficult for most of us. Hmm? So I myself, I have encountered all kinds of Buddhists who very sincerely practice Buddhism and believe, suppose, in all kinds of prejudice. They burn they burn a candle in front of Avalokiteshvara, and this wax flows down and it makes a little bit like shape like Kwanzaa Bosa. And then they ask, is it the blessing of Kwanzaa Bosa? So it's not the blessing of Kwanzaa Bosa. And this is very common. Or they practice Buddhism, and at the same time they do business for their own enrichment, not for giving to others, for hoarding, and it does not go well together. Just practice and at the same time hoarding, and not be very angry when somebody asks for giving or something. It happens. So here, this correct motivation is very, very important. And this correct motivation is based on uh, differentiating mind. Even so, it leads to non-differentiating mind. It is based on the Senpye, on Vikalpa. So we have to differentiate correctly. That's why the study of this basic Buddhism, however you call it, Theravada and so, is very important because it is based on facts. Hmm? When we understand the Four Noble Truths, the fact that there is suffering, that suffering is impermanence, and the impermanence is something which is not to be object of grasping, and everything we experience is impermanence. That is wisdom. And without that wisdom, we won't have a proper motivation, impossible. And so this differentiating wisdom is very important. Unless we understand the Four Noble Truths, we will not understand that it is possible by proper motivation to connect the uh, suffering with liberation. Hmm? We have to understand suffering, we have to understand liberation, then we can understand how to connect uh, suffering with liberation. And the Mahayana Sutras, like the Mahayana Nirvana Sutra, teaches that understanding the truth of suffering is actually understanding the bliss. Hmm? The truth of suffering is understanding bliss, how to get liberation even in the middle of suffering. And that is the non-dualistic motivation. For that, we need clear differentiation. In that sense, this clear differentiation is a base for non-differentiation, at least to my very limited understanding. It's difficult to understand. I myself have trouble understanding it, but the difference between the true bodhisattva and ourselves who are just striving is that the true bodhisattva does not see mistakes in others, he always sees mistakes in himself. And mistakes in ourselves are only clear when we have some deep understanding of correct motivation, right? Can we accept it in this way?
Okay, thank you, Faster.
So now the time is here, so we can start. Is the recording is ready? Huh? some people have turned up, I guess.
Yes,
Hmm?
already record,
Already.
Master.
So let us start. And
Yes.
as usual, we start by repeating what we have learned, because in this text it's very important to see what was before to understand what comes later. And we have learned, we have started with explaining the samsara method, the Shen Mie Men, the method of understanding liberation from understanding the samsaric existence. We had also method of understanding samsara from understanding nirvana, or from understanding non-dualistic nirvana, suchness. So from understanding suchness, we go to understanding the samsara, which is our state. So we start with the effect and come to the cause. And again, here in this section, in this last section of the third chapter, we start from the cause, samsaric existence, which is dukkha, hmm, and we have to penetrate the dukkha to understand the liberation. And the dukkha are the five, it has been explained, are the five aggregates of clinging, and so on, all these objects of wisdom, five aggregates, which can be boiled down to mind and its objects, nama, rupa. Hmm? Mind cannot arise without an object. Object cannot happen without the mind. And this neither the object nor the mind is subjected to thinking. They arise together when the thinking appears. But when there is no thinking, they are actually not separated. Only by thinking they become two separated. So the text explains that in its essence, they are isolated. The mind is mind, and the object is object. When the mind does not think without the object, and the object cannot appear without the mind. So this actually situation is that the true mind has no real abode. The abode of the mind is alaya, in the Sanskrit tradition, bhavanga in the Theravada tradition. And this abode is not really abode at all. We cannot think of mind without the object, and we cannot think of object without the mind. So actually the mind and the object, they are achintya, they are unthinkable. Pukha. And this is very difficult to understand. For that, we have to do a lot of practice and a lot of thinking to understand that actually this is understanding Zen. We are all interested in Zen tradition, non-dualistic tradition, or in the Pure Land, which is also non-dualistic tradition. When we start thinking and identify with thinking, so the text says that we are going astray, milula. When we go astray, we take the text explain, we take the East as the West, and we are not aware that we take the East as the West. So we are not aware that whatever arises in the mind arises in mutual relation. Xiang Tai. Xiang Tai means mutual relation. There is no big without the small. There is no bad without the good. There is no samsara without the nirvana. Everything arises and can only arise in mutual relation. So when we speak about something, and this is essence of non-dualistic understanding, we are only using the fangpian, shangjiao. We are only using upaya. We are only using skillful means, and the skillful means can only explain that what is superficial, because language is always superficial. This is I myself am interested in linguistics. This is a principle also discovered in modern linguistics. The language is always imperfect. The Buddhists were claiming it uh, thousands of years, especially very clearly in Madhyamika. The language is always imperfect and brings stability into that which can never be stable. And which can never be stable, that is our samsaric existence. Uh, we cannot express by words. What we can express by words will always be superficial. And we cannot go into depths, which has to be understood in samadhi. This is yoga tradition. And Buddhism is also linked to yoga tradition. Only samadhi brings us to direct uh, contact with the highest reality, which is unthinkable, which we cannot express by thinking. Here, it is the same in the Hindu tradition, and also in the mystic deistic tradition, like the Sufis. They were very, very clear about this. So these are very great teachings pointing out at the superficiality of language. We are not attached, we have learned before, we are not attached to reality, which we have not penetrated. We are attached to the concepts we create about this reality. So this concept, they are called vikalpa. Kalpa from Sanskrit root kup, which means fabrication. We are fabrication by holding to differentiation. Holding to differentiation is holding to language. But we definitely need language. If we don't use language, we have no way to convey meaning. So this we are in the kind of a paradox, which especially uh, Chinese tradition is fond of pointing out. It comes from Taoism to great extent. We are always confronted with a kind of contradiction. We want to get something stable where nothing really stands, where everything is in movement. So in Chinese tradition, we have this principle of wuti, which is ungraspable, unthinkable. And what we can grasp is yin yang, which is movement, always moving. So here we comes to the here we come to the new subject matter we're going to discuss. And the text says, all bodhisattvas give rise to different stages of Tao. Different Tao in this tradition means one mind. That is Tao. That is the path. That is the marga. That is the way to truth. So the way to truth in this non-dualistic tradition based on Yogacara is one mind. And this one mind, as we have learned in the beginning, repeated many, many times, has the great essence, Qi, the great attributes or characteristics, Xiang, and the great functions, Yung. This is the best of Chinese philosophy. There is no great principle, Li, without a great application, Jung. And this great application is in the facts, Shi. So this is very useful for understanding how to meditate correctly and not to get stuck in meditation, which is very very usual when one practices dualistic meditation. But if one understands the non-dualistic meditation, it should not happen. But it does happen because understanding non-dualistic meditation is much more difficult than understanding the dualistic meditation. Yet, as we know, the explanation of Nagarjuna, the non-dualistic explanation, is at least the deep thinking Buddhist belief, the deepest explanation of the Buddha Dharma, of the dependent origination, which is Buddha Dharma. So, all bodhisattvas give rise to bodhicitta. Bodhicitta means understanding the one mind in this tradition. And in order they give rise to one mind, so the non-dualistic practice means the practice of bodhicitta. From the beginning to the end, the practice of bodhicitta, the practice of one mind, the practice of enlightened mind, because one mind is enlightened mind. And they give rise, bodhisattvas, to one mind in order to practice towards the aim all Buddhas have witnessed. So the Buddhas have witnessed what? Buddhas have witnessed the Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya is present in everything. It is the true way of things. Yet it is also the ultimate silence of the mind. Despite this silence of the mind, the Buddha is supposed to have penetrated all obstacles to knowledge and removed them so he can know how to remove them in us, ignorant beings. And also, like an Arahat, Buddha is also an Arahat, he has literally killed all the defilements. So he has no reason to be reborn, yet he stays because this Dharmakaya, the true way the things are, cannot leave us, because in this tradition the very nature of mind is nirvana. But because we do not know it, we are identifying with our thoughts. So, in a Chinese tradition, it's very wonderful. We are bodhisattvas, but we are bodhisattvas standing in the mud. When the Buddha was enlightened, he saw us beings merged like lotus flowers merged in the mud. When we have attained the non-dualistic realization, which is called bodhisattva bhumi, the earth of the bodhisattva, we are unshakable because we are not standing in the mud. We are standing on the firm earth. And this firm earth is, of course, the emptiness, shunyata. That is the only thing in our experience which stands, which does not shake. So this is the symbol of the Vajra, of the diamond spectrum. This emptiness is a diamond spectrum of our mind, which is called in Chinese tradition Genshin, the true mind. So the text says the bodhisattva is the one who practices bodhicitta, and he practices bodhicitta in 3 stages, says the text. The first stage actually is very, very, even to attain it is very difficult. We are trying, but we are still kind of shaking. And it is called the bodhicitta based on shraddha, based on shing, based on faith, or here shraddha rather means the conviction, determination. Once we have attained this stage of shraddha, we are irreversible from the Buddhahood, perfect Buddhahood, non-dualistic state. And this, according to in China, we have the tradition of the complete enlightenment, according to which we contemplate reality like Huineng. That is the mirror of the mind has no stand. The body does not need any tree. Originally, there was nothing at all to grasp. So there is no place the dust can settle down. Just Jing Jing Yi Wu Tai. How is it? Bo Ti Yi Wu Shu. Ben Lai Wu Yi Wu. He Chu Re Chen Ai. This is the answer of Huineng to the verses of the Shen Xiu, who believes in gradual enlightenment. That means polishing the mirror, not letting any dust settle down. So this is from cause to end. Now Huineng is from end to the cause. Pen Lai Wu Wu, then there is no place for dust because our true nature of the mind is indeed nirvana, and that is to be seen. So because we don't see it, we rely on the faith, on conviction, on determination. And we put this determination into the mind by practicing same like Theravada in a way, hmm? Practicing mindfulness, practicing determination, practicing the one-pointedness of mind, practicing vipassana, uh, practicing when practicing scholarship, study, in order to realize our faith. In case of the bodhisattvas, in case of the disciples, in order to realize the way to nirvana, the entry into the stream. When you enter the stream, you cannot go back. When you have realized the faith as a bodhisattva, you cannot go back. So it's kind of a similar attainment as we have learned before. When we realize the faith, we are irreversible, putue, anivarta, from getting the highest realization. When we have realized the meditation, vipassana, in Theravada, we are irreversible from attaining the state of arahat, from uprooting all the defilements, and therefore causes of continuation in samsara. The bodhisattva, because he has realized the face, he is not afraid of samsara, as we will see in today's lecture, if we come to it, or if not, so next time. So the first, according to the traditional practice, step-by-step practice, which we have to learn, at least in Chinese Buddhism, when we want to be really wise, we have to learn the gradual way to understand our practice together with the Yuan man, the or contemplating the true nature of the mind, nirvana, being always inseparable. Even when we think, we are still inseparable from nirvana. Nirvana we cannot leave because it is the very nature of the mind of all beings. Therefore, this mind of all beings is so precious because it can change according to circumstances. It is never fixed. If it was fixed, then we would not understand anything. So first, the 10 practices of faith, which is same like Theravada, but only the object is not the thinking mind, but the empty mind. Empty mind is the object of shamatha, and the thinking mind is the object of vipassana. This is what we should see very clearly, not just theoretically, but moment by moment. That is Chan. The original meaning of Chan is dhyana, but here it does not mean the first, second, third, fourth absorption, but it means this state of understanding moment by moment the actual perfection of the mind, which is a base without which the mind cannot actually function. So when we have realized the faith, then there are 10 practices of dwelling in bodhicitta, dwelling in the true state of mind. Then 10 practices connected with bodhicitta, that means the 10 paramis. We will come to it in our text also. Sometimes 10 paramis, sometimes 6 paramis. And then the practice of dedicating the merit, because all at this stage we get understanding, as the Diamond Sutra explains, that all virtues do not belong to an individual, do not belong to being, but all virtues belong to the highest reality. This is a true realization, which is very difficult because we are always kind of concerned with the individuality and compare in terms of individuality, not connected to the highest reality, which actually makes everything uh, based on sameness. So these stages, the 10 stages of the awakening of the faith, the 10 stages of dwelling in bodhicitta, 10 stages of practicing the practice based on dwelling in bodhicitta, and then sharing the merit with understanding that all merits belong to the highest reality, not to the conventional reality, even though they are reflected in the conventional reality. This is the deep meaning of this text. When we have gone through the stages, we are, or when we go through the stages, we are so sages, Xian. So this is called in Chinese Xian Wei. When we really become the sages, when especially when we have realized the awakening of faith, awakening of bodhicitta, then we become anivarta, we become putwe, we cannot turn back from the highest enlightenment, which we, same like in Sotapanna, we have 4 stages of perfect realization. Here in Mahayana, we have 11 stages of perfect realization. In Tantric tradition, it is different, but little bit different, but we don't go into that because anyway, Tantric tradition is inseparable from the Mahayana tradition only. The skillful means are different. The philosophy is perfectly the same. So nobody can understand Tantra without studying the Mahayana. So then comes a question, a very important question, which has 3 points I have marked. First is question who attains this realization of confidence, realization of faith, what kind of person, what cultivation, what thing, what practice, what achara, what is the bodhisattva achara in this stage, what is the bodhisattva practice, and how does he proceed step by step. And this is the also the name of this part of this chapter, how to go from stage to stage. So the first question, who attains confidence? So is answered he who by permeation, by suchness believes in karma. When one believes in karma, he is, so to say, in contact with suchness, because the suchness is cannot leave the facts. So he is permeated by suchness, so he believes in karma. So when he believes in karma, he protects his mind because no karma arises without the mind. And he understands whatever karma he does, whatever act he does, he will sooner or later will have to receive the results. Even the Buddha, this is kind of a mystery. Even the Buddha in his nirmana kaya, in his created body, still received the results of the previous karma. So even while in his created body, he was still subjected to slight suffering. This is explained in the commentaries. He had, due to his practice of austerities, he had backaches. So he sometimes asked Shariputra to teach instead of him because he was suffering from back pain. All this is referring to this the karmic created body, the created body. The Dharmakaya, which is a true Buddha, is not subjected to this, but the created body surely is. So he gives rise to Dasha Kusala Karma Patha, 10 ways of practicing the wholesome, the healthy karma, not killing, not stealing, and so on. 3 by body, 4 by speech, and 3 by mind. We have probably all learned. We don't go now too much into detail. Otherwise, we will never stop this text. You can check what are the 3 wrong bodily actions, 4 wrong speech action, lying, and so on, and the 3 wrong mental actions, wrong view, greed, and resistance, anger. So he develops in other, the one who attains confidence, he develops true faith, which is very much developed in Mahayana uh, Mahayana Shastras, how to say, a Mahayana treatise, especially the treatise of Maitreya. We can learn what is a true faith and what is the not true faith, explained very clearly. So the second question, what cultivation does a bodhisattva who is in the stage of developing the one mind, developing the bodhicitta, what practices he does? And the text says when he meets Buddhas, he serves them and gives them dana. And he is supposed to practice this for very, very long time to give it some number for 10,000 kalpas. Each kalpa is, is in is years without counting. Sometimes people count, but count in millions. So 10,000 aeons, it is just a drop in the great ocean of the universe. And even this drop in the great ocean of the universe is inexhaustible. So this happens to three reasons. So the text explains, I have put them together. The Bosa or the Buddha teach them to give rise to the bodhicitta. So they give rise to the bodhicitta and practice accordingly. Or due to great compassion, which is especially necessary in our age of moral decadence, where the human values are being swallowed by the materialistic ideology, which is all prevalent. So, due to great compassion, he understands this urgency of he understands the urgency of the practicing for the benefit not only of oneself but of all sentient beings. So he gives rise by himself to bodhicitta, to one mind, or at at the time of the decline. Actually, the second one is that because he is endowed with great compassion by nature. Some people are endowed by great compassion by nature, which is not so common in our time. Or he gives rise to the true faith by uh, understanding that this decadent age when materialistic philosophy is all prevailing, then he wants to protect the true Dharma, which is the protector of the world. And so, due to this, these causes, one becomes a niyatagana, Ting one becomes irreversible from the path to the highest enlightenment, which is similar to the stream entry. When he has realized his faith, he even so he has not yet dwelling in the true mind. He understands it by faith, by resolution. So he becomes part of the Buddha family, Buddha Gotra. So he is irreversible from attaining the highest realization, the non-dualistic realization, which, according to the many Mahayana scriptures, especially the Lotus Sutra, the Lotus Sutra is kind of probably historically the first important Mahayana Sutra, probably composed at the same time like the Theravada Sutras, very maybe first century or second century of our era. Before that, the Buddhism was oral tradition, so nobody really knows. And the Lotus Sutra teaches that actually the uh, path of the Arahat is only skillful means for understanding the uh, the highest path, which is liberation together with all beings, liberation based on this one mind. Hmm? The liberation based on one mind is the in this tradition is the only true liberation. So, in according to Lotus Sutra, the Buddha gives uh, prediction to all the great disciples that they will finally, after a long, long time, incountable time, attain the same realization as he has attained. And the symbol of this realization is then the eternal Buddha, which appears in the Lotus Sutra. So once you become part of the Buddha family, true part of the Buddha family, so you are never separated from the true cause of the non-dualistic enlightenment. This true cause of non-dualistic enlightenment, Jen Yin, is the Tathata, the suchness. And the Buddha is the one who comes in suchness and goes in suchness. That's why he's called Tatha Agata and Tathagata. So these stages of enlightenment, when one has attained the true cause, still are uh, step by step. Actually, only in the eighth stage of enlightenment, in which the author of this treatise or supposed author of this treatise is supposed to have attained, one is gets the abhisheka, the quanting, the initiation into the true state of Tathagata, which is unmovable, which is the uh, Vajra spectrum. So his mind, as the Mahayana Sutras explain, his mind is not influenced by objects, but is ruling over the objects. So he can change the quality of the objects according to his wish. This is actually for us even unthinkable, this kind of attainment. Now, his confidence for the one who is unshakable in his resolution, not yet in realization, uh, is lasting such a long time. And before that, actually, he is supposed to be Aniyatagana, Wuting Qi. But actually, this is kind of a paradox. And the Zen is always working with this paradox. Same with the Tibetan tradition, especially Dzogchen, Ayuan Man. Actually, even though we are practicing innumerable kalpas, even innumerable kalpas to get the stage of unshakable resolution, yet we should practice so that we are always in each and every thought connected with the true mind. And this is the true practice. So, in a way, the true practice also brings us into the presence of the ultimate reality, which for the Mahayana Buddhist is the emptiness. And this emptiness is always there. It is timeless. Yet we realize it stage by stage in a long, long process of practice. So that eventually we not afraid of any one who has realized this absolute confidence. He is, of course, eventually realized he's not afraid of any uh, evil states of existence. These evil states of existence eventually teach him how to master the mind. And the practice of Bodhisattva is mastering the mind. Now we come to another part of the explanation. We don't need to go to it into detail. It is not very important for us. It shows that they are beings whose kusala mula, whose shanken, whose the roots of merit, the basic roots of merit. They are, as we should know, it's non-ignorance, non-greed, and non-hate. And in from the perspective of realization, they are the heat when we understand the impossibility of finding self in that which is a process. Then the summit, then the kshanti, the ability to tolerate this dharma, and finally the highest dharma in the world, where the mind turns to the highest reality. So these are also kushala mulas. So we have kushala mulas, the roots of wholesome, roots of the health in terms of non-greed, non-hate, and non-ignorance, and in terms of the practice, which is the heat, summit, acceptance, and the highest dharma, which kind of projects us into the uh, direct realization, be it nirvana in dualistic sense or nirvana even in non-dualistic sense. This is same in the tradition of the disciples and in the tradition of the bodhisattvas. No difference. So the by this kind of practice, the bosa understands immediately when the unhealthy state of mind arises, and he understands that this unhealthy state of mind is a result of the long, long practice of the vasanas, of the permeation of mind by wrong conduct, which we all have. And so he becomes less critical of others and more critical of oneself because his perspective changes due to the correct practice. So it is important to understand that even though we have not passed this 100, that is 10,000 kalpas, still we can give rise to bodhicitta, and that which is unshakable. Unless it is unshakable, we still don't belong to the family of the Buddhas. But as in a Chinese tradition, same in Tibetan tradition, there is the explanation of the practice from the effect to the cause and from cause to the effect, which are complementary. So one can give rise to bodhicitta even if one has not bodhicitta, which is the profound, even when one has not passed this 10,000 kalpas, and even so one belongs yet to the non definite group of people who still can go back to from the resolution to attain the non-dualistic realization, the one mind realization. So it can be done by practicing on the forms representing the highest reality, like the Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, Chenrezig, or Tara, or Samantha and so on, or Medicine Buddha. So by contemplating these forms and the mantras connected with them and their symbolic meaning, they can still get unshakable resolution. Or by offering to the Sangha, by hearing the teachings, even from the disciples or from anyone, because if one gets deep wisdom, one can learn from anyone. Anyone, even those who make mistakes, can become the inspiration by learning the bad experience, how to digest. We can learn also how to transform our mind to non-dualistic understanding. So this kind of giving rise to bodhicitta, however, may not be stable. They will only be stable when they are based on the unshakable practice, on the unshakable resolution, always to continue in the practice. So they are in Buddhist literature, we may come to it, especially when we read the Tajatulun, the Nagarjuna's commentary to the Pragya Paramita Sutras. We have many good stories exemplifying how even such great practitioners like Shariputra, who so being resolute and practicing with Buddha, like Ananda for many, many kalpas, they can still uh, be subjected to unstable mind and turn away from the resolution. Very famous story of Asanga, who has been practicing 12 years. 12 years. He did not move from the Kukuta Pada Parvata, from the chicken foot mountain. You can visit when you are in India. It's about 50 kilometers from Bodh Gaya. And there is still a footprint of Asanga who left it there. And this Asanga, he has practiced 12 years and is even practicing 12 years, he could not attain what he was hoping for, the direct realization of the path. So he was disappointed and decided to leave the mountain. He left the mountain, and on the way he meets a dog, who, very famous story, who is being eaten by worms. All around his body is worms. So he, in his great compassion, he seeing this dog, he tries to take all these worms away, even using his mouth to get to relieve this terrible suffering of the dog. And then this dog suddenly turns into the Maitreya, the Buddha Maitreya, the Bodhisattva Maitreya, and he then is given the teachings according to tradition. The Yogacara teachings were taught by Maitreya, and he attained the first stage of direct bodhisattva realization, the happy stage, which you can never, in each and every thought, you are connected with the true mind. This is why it is called happy stage. So in this stage, when one has attained this, worldly dharmas are of no more of interest. For us, deluded beings, worldly dharmas can still shake our mind. It is not so difficult. We all have had experience of that. When we have attained this, what Nagarjuna, Asanga, and the great bodhisattvas, Xu Yin Lao Hersham, are supposed to have attained, then whatever happens, even like in case of Xu Yin Lao Hersham, when they beat you, break your bone, you still never separated from this enjoyment of the true mind. So you can convert even your enemies. So in us, the Laukika, the worldly dharmas are still very active. They are called in Chinese tradition the eight winds, the pleasant and unpleasant, the fame and the blame, the the profit and non-profit, all these dharmas, they still very active in us. But when we have attained the irreversible stage, then they are very much weakened. So let me see the Chinese text. So the question comes, what thought is to be developed to succeed in this stage of irreversible faith, according to the gradual path, of course. But this irreversible faith stage, of course, is also to be practiced moment by moment. This is the Yuan Tiao in Pie Tiao, which is based on differentiation, then step by step. Step by step and moment by moment is actually the same process when we have deeper understanding. Then we can attain irreversible stage. This is the Chinese tradition. So what kind of thought, what kind of nian? Nian, wonderful word, means thought, but also means memory. So memory is connected with some deep impression in the mind. We only remember that which has made a deep impression in the mind. What has not made a deep impression in the mind, we won't remember. So in order to attain the stage of irreversible faith in one mind, in the true mind, then we have to practice straight mind, straight thought. So the straight thought means not falling into the two extremes, the extreme of annihilation and the extreme of the permanence. And it means to be aware, to think, nian, the original enlightenment, 本觉. 本觉, as we have learned, is connected to the process of being enlightened. When we understand the original enlightenment, we are in the process of getting enlightened. This is a wonderful aspect of the Chinese tradition, of the Zen. We remember the true mind, and we are supposed to remember it in each and every moment of thinking. Then the deep mind. Deep mind means the mind which gathers the healthy or auspicious deeds. And of course, accordingly, the straight mind, that means remembering the true mind, remembering the emptiness, remembering the suchness. Deep mind means remembering the or thinking of gathering all the healthy dharmas to weaken the power of of the unwholesome, of the unhealthy in our mind. So one who does it, he gets angry, but the anger disappears as soon as it appears. One is greedy, but the greed disappears very soon after it has appeared. And one is ignorant, but this ignorance does not have continuity. So this is the deep mind. The deep mind is proximity always of the true mind in Chinese tradition, Genshin. This Genshin is always there. But this Jiaxin, identification with the thinking, comes and goes. Then the Mahakaruna, Tape, the great compassion mind. That means because one contemplates the true mind, the nirvanic mind, which can never leave us. So, one sees this true mind just as Buddha, when he was enlightened, saw us ignorant beings as the lotuses merged in mud. So one sees the beings, even those who harm us, as actually all having the potential of Buddhahood. Because one contemplates the potential of Buddhahood, then one gets greedy, but only for short time. One gets angry, but only for short time. One gets uh, uh, ignorant, but the ignorance will not accompany him for a long time because of this straight mind and deep mind. So he can develop by contemplating the true nature of mind being present in all beings. He can, on the base of great compassion, he reduces his anger to almost nothing. And because he contemplates his own true nature and gets used to contemplating his own nature due to straight mind and deep mind, he can attune to the true way things are, to suchness. So in Chan tradition, this is the subject matter of most of the Kung-an, most of the koans. What were you before you were born? What was your face before you were born? And so on and so on. To get the direct contact to the true mind, which is always connected with great compassion, because it belongs to no one. So now comes the question. I better read in Chinese. I better read the Chinese text. So it was said that the the dharmata, the sphere of the truth, of the true character of all phenomena is one, as eka dharma skanda dhatu, ifa yunche, and the essence of enlightenment, the 4T, does not know any duality. In this situation, it should be enough just to meditate on suchness. Why do we need to make effort to use all these skillful means you are mentioning? So it should be enough to cultivate the straight mind, to cultivate the true mind. Why to bother to do all these other things convincing Buddhas to stay in samsara, to serve them, and uh, to practice giving and all the virtues. Just this true mind penetrates everywhere, is all illumining everything. So why not just practice that? That should be enough, because this true mind is the true common characteristics spreading in everywhere. So, as the answer is by example, example of a jewel surrounded by this, what you call it, this stone or whatever covers this jewel so that its potential to shine is covered by impurity. So uh, we can find a jewel, but when we find it, it is usually surrounded by earth or stone, which prevent it from shining. We have to clean it, we have to rub it, then it will shine. Unless we do it, it will not shine. So similarly, without a skillful means, jewel of heart, which is emptiness, which is a true mind, will never shine. And because our impurities, and the more we study Buddhism, the more we become familiar with our impurities. They are indeed many. So the skillful means to get rid of these impurities, they also many in a different tradition, different skillful means, all are meant, even in the non-dual, even in the dualistic tradition, all skillful means are eventually meant to make this jewel of the mind shine. Because according to Buddhism, the uh, defilements are guests to the mind, are not real. If they were real, we would never uh, be able to become enlightened. Ignorance, if ignorance was real, we would never attain wisdom. So they are four kinds of skillful means, which are especially summarizing the many skillful means explained in the Buddhist scriptures, especially in the Mahayana scriptures. Now, because our time is slowly coming to the end, and these four will need some time to explain, and we don't want to stop in the middle. So let us finish here for now, and we continue with these four skillful means for Fampian, by which we can get rid of the impurities in our mind. The deeper our practice, the more aware we are of these impurities. For this non-dualistic teaching is so wonderful. We can only understand wisdom by understanding ignorance. We can only understand ignorance by understanding wisdom. And the ignorance and wisdom, they always exist in mutual relation. Never wisdom separated from ignorance, never ignorance separated from wisdom. When we become the Buddhas, we have no ignorance, but we just reflect the ignorance of others so we can guide innumerable beings. We reflect ignorance without identifying with it. So this is what we should learn, and let us try. That is a true meaning of the practice. So that much for today. I have explained to Sviana, and I repeat it again. On next week, I am flying to Taiwan, and I will arrive to Taiwan on Tuesday. Then I will have to travel and will have to take some rest. And so next lesson should be 1st of March. So we will cancel this 1st of March lecture, and we will continue on 8th of March. And the 8th of March, the timing for the lecture for me will be 1 hour after Jakarta time. You starting at 7:30, so I will start 8:30 until 10 o'clock. And for us coming from Europe, so it will continue 1:30 until the change to summertime, which will happen sometimes in March, and towards the end of March, and we will. I will make the announcement when it is so far. So that's it. Let us transfer merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. 愿以此功德普及一切我等一众生，皆空成佛道。May the merits of this practice spread to all beings, so that we attain the state of perfect enlightenment. Om Mito. Okay.